Hi, today's video is about the Hechsherim, kosher certifications in Israel, which are commonly used and are kept by relatively Mehadrin keepers. There are Hechsherim which are not in this list. For example, I believe Zohar is not here. Zohar, by the way, is a rabbinical authority, sort of an alternative to the Haredi Rabbanut and Israeli official Rabbanut. This list is actually made by the Madrasha Rachel Vachaya, Chappelle's Institute. So the basis of the annotations, like all products or parts of them, are based off Ashkenazi Mehadrin keepers and are not related to maybe, like Sephardi or regular Rabbanut keepers. So let's get started. You can see Badaz Rav Reuben on the left, which says all products. So this is Ashkenazi, that's why it says all products, because whoever made this list is Ashkenazi. Where you can see Reuben is at the left bottom of the circle. It's really small and kind of hard to notice. And then there is Rav Landau. Now, Rav Landau is one of the biggest rabbi families in Israel. They have had different generations of, rabbanim, like by the last name. So they kind of had a lot of the kashrut in Israel, especially in association with the Orthodox side of rabbanuts. So after that is Eda HaCharedis. You can see at the left bottom of it, it says Acharedis. So recognize it by like the half moon shape. And of course the word Acharedis. So this is one of the most universally accepted Hechsherim in Israel. And then you have the top right, Machzikei Hadat bells. Now the Belzer Chassidut made this Hechsher, obviously. So you can see that is tiny words. It's really hard to see the words when it comes in the stamp. So I would just recognize it by sort of like an oval shape surrounded by like a frame. And after that, in the second row is Agudat Israel from the left. Now Agudat Israel is also one of the major Ashkenazi recognizable Hechsherim. You'll recognize it with a leaf that looks like a maple. And then you have Kehilot. Kehilot is relatively obvious because you see the word in the middle on the ribbon. And then Sheirit Israel, also relatively recognizable in the middle. Now Rabbanut Mehadrin Yerushalayim is not universally accepted in the Haredi communities, but apart from that, I would say 99% of normal Israelis would eat it. On the rightmost is Or Meuderet Yerushalayim, which is a relatively nuanced one. You don't see it very often. Now, we see on the left Rehovot Mehadrin. Rehovot is another more Merkaz area of Israel, so it just comes from there. And then Tnuva Mehadrin. Unfortunately, this one is so hard to recognize. Machput, the next one. This is so easy because it says Yoredea. Is relatively commonly seen in meat-related products. On the top right, you see Netanya Mehadrin. This is also another very hard one. Sometimes when these ones are so hard to recognize because the words are tiny and you're never going to see it, at the least you can see is Leh Mehadrin. For example, this one and also the Tnuva Mehadrin one and also the Rehovot one. The second row from the left, Rav Efrati, same issue. Mehadrin Netivot belongs to Rav Pinchas Gon. And then this huge one, but that's Beis Yosef. This is unmissable. You must have seen it everywhere in Israel. It was founded by Rav Ovadia Yosef, who was obviously one of the founding Sephardi rabbis in Israel. You notice at the bottom it says non-meat only, but I would say if it makes more sense to you, like Sephardi have a more strict like approach to slaughtering and checking the meat before they go out. So Batachlis, I think you can, even if you're Ashkenazi, like unless you're very close in terms of your community and you cannot tolerate any other type of kashrut, I don't think there's any problem with having it, even if you're like usually keeping Ashkenazi Mehadrin. Some people keep, at home, like the street as they want, and then they go out and they have, different Hechsherim. I don't think it's worth not having this Hechsher, to be honest, because it's really one of the best Hechsherim for Sephardim in Israel, and even in general in Israel. After that, you have Tiberia Mehadrin. This is another small one. You can see Tiberia at the bottom. It's cute, kind of. And then Maor HaKashud, also very recognizable. Migdal HaEmek Mehadrin. I must have seen this in like really random places. I can't recall. And then you have Efrat Mehadrin, which is in the Gush Etzion area. That's why it says Gush Etzion at the bottom if you see the bold. Here you have Beitar Mehadrin, again regional. Beit Shemesh Mehadrin, also regional. And then Khatam Sofer B'nai Brak. Okay, this is huge again. You see this ribbon that says Khatam Sofer. So I would say this is also very highly acceptable. I'm not sure why they said all non-meat products as opposed to also the meat products here, because in my knowledge, this is a also highly firm organization. Now here comes the American part of things. I don't think they included anything from France, by the way, or Italy for the matter, but these are the major American and Canadian Hechsherim. They are very highly recognizable, which I think they probably hired like a graphic designer to think about it. You will see that there is no triangle K here, because triangle K can be problematic for some people. Some people doubt their strictness. I've heard some issues, for example, related to their chips a few years ago. I'm not familiar with the details, though. In any case, also consider whether you keep Chalav Israel, because if you do, then the foreign, like, American and Canadian ones are mostly not Chalav Israel. Whereas the Israeli ones, if they are not Chalav Israel and they are Mehadrin, they usually would put like a note saying like le'ochlei chalav nochri, and that's where you recognize that it's dairy, but it's only for people who do not keep chalav Israel. Now they have some notes here on the remember always that are pretty good points. For instance, to check for a valid Teudat Kashrut, especially if you're in a relatively new business or in a wacky location. If there is some kind of text next to the Hechsher that is printed on the product, you should always look at it. Sometimes it excludes certain times of the year and excludes certain ingredients. Not only about the milk, but also like kitniot and that kind of stuff, or whether you have to check for bugs. In that case, it would be written as lelo pikuach nilchatim banosea charakim. That's it for now. I hope it helped to go through some of the biggest Hechsherim in Israel. I spent more time intentionally describing the ones that are the most common and some of the cultural nuances. It's always best to talk to your friend if you're not sure what to bring him or her, because some people are very particular. Even though they are like Ashkenazi Mehadrin, they might like want only like 1 or 2 Hechsherim in some cases. Whereas some people, you might think that they, wear black and white, but they're actually very open-minded about what exactly you bring them in terms of like the different Hechsherim, especially in the Mehadrin range.